All right, welcome to Talkin' Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk to you about Bitfarms, stock ticker BITF. Bitfarms is a Bitcoin mining company. We talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners quite a bit on this channel, so if that is content that you're interested in, please remember to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Also, if everybody would please smash the like button, it helps the channel out a lot. I want to go through Bitfarms today because they released their Q1 2022 earnings report. And then at the end, I want to talk some price targets because Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners are quite a bit oversold right now, in my opinion. So we will go through that. Remember, in the pinned comment, there is a link to our free Discord. So we would love to have you over there. Let's talk about Bitfarms. Okay, so we're in the middle of the trading day and Bitfarms is currently trading at $1.95. So we'll see where it ends the day today. That leaves it, you'll see, at a $399 million market cap. So I want to talk about that because that has a lot to do with my forward potential price targets. Okay, so you'll see that their 52-week low is $1.67, and that was just last week. I believe that was on May 12th when pretty much Bitcoin and all the Bitcoin miners bottomed out. And Bitcoin's actually been on a pretty decent run. It's been on a slow and steady run over the course of the last week plus. I will note that most people have absolutely no confidence in the run it's taking right now. So we have some recent lows at 28.8. We have about an 18-month line of support that it seems to be holding strong. It has held that on the one-day time frame every single day, even through the crash down to 25,000. But obviously, one of the main factors of the in the short term of Bitfarms price is going to be the price of Bitcoin. So a lot of volatility in the price of Bitcoin. It's causing the stock to go all over the place. Again, it just hit a new 52-week low last week. It has come up off of that, but it is still at a historically low number. So we're going to talk short term and long term. First, let's get to their earnings report. Okay, this is their presentation for their earnings report. So first quarter 2022 results presentation, May 16th, 2022. This is the first quarter ended March 31st. Bitfarms had an incredible April 2021. So I am going to give you a little bit of an update, and I think they do also in here as to what went on in April because it changes their numbers quite a bit. So let's take a look. Okay, so you can see the first chart here is Bitcoin per day versus exahash that the company has in total. So you'll see a steady increase in their exahash over time, a big jump from Q3 to Q4, a small jump from Q4 2021 to Q1 2022. So that was from 2.24 to 2.73. However, I want to point out that just 1 month later at April 30th, they were at 3.3 exahash. So that was a very big jump from March to April. You'll see their Bitcoin per day went down a little bit. So did everybody's from Q4 to Q1 of 2022 because the difficulty rate went up. And so accordingly, you'll see also their direct cost for Bitcoin. And again, this is just direct cash costs. This is not depreciation and overhead. So this is mostly energy. So the direct cash cost went from 8,000 in Q4 to 8,700 in Q1 of 2022. They were as low as 6,900. That was a bit of an anomaly. I don't expect them to get back to that. If you remember last summer, China made a major shift in their Bitcoin mining philosophy, and basically all those machines turned off. The worldwide hash rate went down substantially. This allowed everybody the benefit of getting some Bitcoin on their balance sheet at a very cheap price. So this $8,700 I think is more realistic. They're projecting similar costs going forward. Okay, so you'll see in the first quarter they averaged 10.7 Bitcoin per day. By April, so in the month of April, they averaged 14 Bitcoin per day. So that was a big jump. I want to just switch over to their press release because in their press release they talk about their 2022 expansion plans. You can see they just went to 3.3 exahash. Bitfarms' current expectations and goals for 2022 are summarized below. 2022 quarterly hash rate targets based on current infrastructure, construction, and miner deliveries scheduled are. So 4.0 as of June 30th. So they then slow down a little bit for the next few months. 4.2 by the end of September, and then 6.0 by the end of December. Now, there is still a plan on the table to get to 8.0, but they have dialed back their expectations here, so we'll look at a chart later on the range at where they may finish by the end of the year, and a lot of that has to do with some construction, placement of machines, and getting some operations up and running. You'll see they do say miners and orders for miners with delivery scheduled in 2022 will be capable of producing 7.2 exahash when fully operational. So even though they're targeting 6, they've got machines on order that will be delivered in 2022 that could do 7.2 exahash In addition to that, they reiterate opportunities are being evaluated and others will be assessed in Bitfarms' effort to provide the additional infrastructure and mining hardware to reach the company's 8.0 exahash goal by the end of 2022. So again, I think they're dialing back their guidance a little bit to 6.0, but they are still letting you know that, and I think this has an awful lot to do with the price of Bitcoin, the price of natural gas, and what's happening with their operations in Argentina. So the combination of those things is going to land them somewhere between 6.0 and 8.0 exahash by the end of the year. But again, if we look at that, at the end of 2021, they were at 2.24 exahash. So they're still somewhere in the neighborhood of tripling or quadrupling their exahash in 2022. Okay, here's their megawatt capacity chart. So they update this in each quarterly presentation. So I just wanted to go through a couple of things that did change on this a little bit, and I think this has a lot to do with where they're going to end up at the end of the year. All their operations in Canada, Washington, and Paraguay are all hydro. So those are all 100% green essentially. They then have 50 megawatts on this chart right now planned for the end of the year in Argentina. Their Argentina plant runs on natural gas, so that is a switch for them. So I will tell you, it does seem, and they have not specifically said so, but I'm going to show you over the last two charts what's happening. They are dialing back their expectations in Argentina. I did do an interview with Ben Gagnon, and he was very forthcoming, and he talked about how they're going to walk before they run in Argentina. And at that time, he basically said, we're lowering our target for 2022 from 200 megawatts in Argentina to 100 megawatts. And you'll see in the last quarterly report, they have here 105 megawatts anticipated in 2022 for Argentina. So if we go back to the current report, you'll see that is now down to 50. So they've cut that in half again. And I think this has a lot to do, again, with whether or not they're going to end up at 6 exahash or 8 exahash by the end of the year or some point in between. So obviously everybody would prefer as a shareholder that they stay on plan and get to their 8 exahash. However, I think if they get to 6 exahash, that will still be strong performance. Again, that will still be close to a triple in exahash over the course of the year. The month of April, they broke their record by far of Bitcoin mined in a month, and they should continue to do so with this progression for the rest of the year. This is just a graphic representation of what we were talking about. Firm plan to reach 6.0 exahash by December 31st. So they're basically saying we're getting to 6, but they then say contracted miners to reach 7.2 by December 31st, and it's their year-end goal to get to 8. So that's really the range they're looking at, and they're not eliminating any of those possibilities, but they just want to, at this point, say, look, we got 6.0 locked in. We're still shooting for 8. We'll see what happens. This chart right here is gross mining margin. So you'll see in 2021, this fluctuated 80, 79, 82, and then 84 in the fourth quarter of 2021. So that was their best gross mining margin. Well, that went down to 76% in Q1. Now, this chart is actually a little bit misleading. It looks like a drastic pullback, but actually, I mean, this is 76%. Q2 last year was 79%. So it is down. The major factor in that is that the price of Bitcoin was down in Q1. So as a result of that, their gross profit is down. So you can see at 76%, even though that is a drop off from previous numbers, that is a very high gross profit margin. That still leaves them plenty of room for downside in Bitcoin. For those of you who are bearish, and I know that number is growing, there are a lot of people that feel that we have not yet bottomed out and or we may be moving into a bit of a crypto winter. That is not what I think, but it is becoming a prevalent belief across the market. So you need to decide for yourself what you think of that. But the point of this schedule is even in this lower Bitcoin environment, they're still at a 76% mining gross profit. So even if that were to go down to maybe 70, that still leaves them in very good shape and healthy. Okay, I want to look at one thing. The company's remaining payment obligation in connection with the 48,000 unit purchase agreement, they need to finish paying for these. They have paid for a majority of them. However, there's still $93 million left to pay in 2022 to get the rest of these machines in and installed. And again, these 48,000 and 1,200 amp miners get them to 7.2 exahash. Okay, so this is their balance sheet as of March 31st, and you'll see total current assets is $323 million. A lot of this is Bitcoin. They hold a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, some of which is already pledged as collateral. some of which is free. They also have $77 million of cash on their balance sheet. So this is a very strong balance sheet. In addition to that, you'll see long-term deposits on equipment. So they've already paid $99.9 million. So call it $100 million. I don't anticipate that they're going to need to raise a lot of money. They do have an open at the market shelf offering, and they can go to that and draw it down a little bit, but it does not look like they need to do anything dramatic to stay on their plans, and they have more than enough resources to get there. So that's an important part of the equation. Cash flow is key. This balance sheet is very strong. $142 million in current liabilities, including their $100 million credit facility. So that's the vast majority of their current liabilities. So all in at their current level, their break even on a Bitcoin from a cash flow standpoint, so that backs out depreciation, is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000. And as they scale up, that number will go down because their G&A will not increase in direct proportion to their exahash rate. So their break even on mining will reduce over time. And again, I'm estimating in somewhere around 20,000 all in on a cash flow basis, with direct costs of mining somewhere under $9,000 at this time. Okay, let's take a quick look at the chart and see what's going on with Bitfarms. All right, this is Bitfarms on the 4-hour time frame. So you'll see Bitfarms was trading at about $9.32 back in November. So again, remember, as I zoom in, I'm not looking at any of these points as potential price targets. I'm going all the way down to this line, which represents already a 50% pullback from their all-time high 6 months ago. Okay, so here we are back on the 4-hour time frame zoomed in. So you'll see the first thing I want to say is that just about 2 weeks ago, Bitfarms was trading at about $2.75, and that was its 52-week low. That was a line of support that had held all year in the year 2022. So they just broke out of that really in the beginning of May, just a couple of weeks ago. So basically they would have to have a 40% increase in the price of their stock just to get back to where they were 2 weeks ago. And at that point, that was their all-time low. This is a long-term line of support that Bitfarms held for the entire year of 2021, basically, until this broke down in late December. And again, this was what Bitfarms was trading at when Bitcoin was last at 29,000, which is about where we're at right now. At the moment, we just crossed 30,000, so we're a little higher than that. So just to get back to this line would be a 110% increase in the price of their stock. That would be a double. This is what makes sense to me as a reasonable short-term price target. And by short term, it may be 30, 60, 90 days. It's hard to tell. Bitcoin needs to get a little bit healthy and start trending in the right direction. And people have to start believing this really. So we may go test some lower points in the middle, but I do think that, even at Bitcoin 35,000, I think that this $4 mark is a very reasonable expectations for the price of Bitfarms stock. So again, not financial advice. I don't know the future. This is my risk reward analysis. You can see Bitfarms is sitting very near its 52-week low. It's relatively speaking very oversold. So in my opinion, the risk reward is there. The potential is maybe for a double somewhere in the year 2022. So you guys can do your own due diligence and decide for yourself. I do think this is one that should be on everybody's watch list at least. So that's all I've got for you on Bitfarms. So thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, please remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.